In Tanzania, a Chinese Communist Party training school opens amidst a criticism that party-to-party training may weaken African democracy.
Using hybrid learning tools, students and teachers in Lagos State learn smarter with modular interactive classrooms.
An Ivory Coast chocolatier strives to sweeten cocoa processors' earnings by training women to get good taste and make good profits from cocoa.
Hello there, thanks for tuning in to the show that goes around the continent to bring you stories near and far. I'm Chamberlain Oso at Channels Television here in Lagos. I'm joined by my colleague from Voice of America in Washington.
Thanks, I'm Linor Moudou at the Voice of America. Happy to be with you for another edition of Africa 54. Let's start off with the latest from Nigeria. Chamberlain Uso in Lagos brings you that story.
One of the easiest ways of encouraging smart learning is through introduction of innovative and creative teaching methodology. Now that way, both the teachers and the students leverage on advanced means of teaching and learning, thereby increasing efficiency and productivity. And that's the idea behind the modular interactive classrooms in Lagos State, Nigeria's commercial nerve center.
Viewing this containerized structure from the exterior will give you no inkling what awaits inside, but a closer look changes that impression. The one-story building is a modular interactive school built using standardized reusable freight compartments, known as containers, a deviation from the brick-and-mortar school buildings. Since the pandemic hit in 2020, a number of learning institutions transitioned online, leveraging educational technology to adapt to the new reality. But providing an environment that supports the technology is key, hence learning spaces like this. Interactivity is an important part of this setup, and low-cost and easy-to-use tablets are available to encourage the students access the notes the teacher is using. These students from Vetland Junior Grammar School in Lagos are the first set to experience this pioneer innovation in the state.
My feeling about this school is that it enhances the children's learning. If they don't know something, they can look it up in the Google, because we have our tabs with us, our teachers with the smart boards, the interactive boards. They can even give an example with looking it up in the Google with a picture. Like, this is so amazing. Even if the teacher is not even in the classroom, they can search, explore the world, like what they don't understand in the classrooms, they can look it up on the internet. Digital
literacy is mandatory for the teachers as well to enhance visual learning, and they make use of interactive touch screens instead of boards. What both parties need is to have their tablets and internet connection, and learning can take place anywhere. Power supply, which is usually a major issue in the country, is addressed as the building has its own dedicated energy source that's off the grid.
We're sitting right here in a modular school. In here, 52 containers, a 12 classroom block. And why? Why modular? We needed an envelope to warehouse our technology. It's not as if we couldn't have sat in a brick and mortar building, that's fine. But the reality, the concept behind it, the mindset behind it was, what's new? What are we going to do differently? What's rugged enough that can take this African environment that we're in?
If the benefits from this scheme are to be spread and used widely, more of these sorts of facilities will definitely be needed. Expectations are high that this indeed will be the case.
We have Mr. Bolan Olayomi, who joins us in the studio to discuss further on that matter. He is the CEO and founder of WowBe Interactive. Well, thank you for joining us on Africa 54.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us about the idea behind this modular school initiative.
Thank you very much for that. This was a concept that we wanted to bring to life technology in learning spaces. We've been at this for about 7 years now. Overall, the whole group is 23 years old. So it's 23 years of research coming together, bringing young people across Nigeria, from Port Harcourt to Lagos, together to bring about how could we transform the learning spaces with technology. And our company, being a pioneer organization, first to do this in Africa in terms of interactive touchscreens, and as a manufacturer of African origin, assembling this locally, we thought, how do we help our kids leapfrog from how dire our educational segment is? How do we give them this opportunity to be able to compete with the best in the world? So we found that our technology could make that happen. So what we did was to take technology, put it together with what we had done, our interactive touch panels, our tablet PCs, our servers, our software applications, create an outstanding learning environment. But beyond that, how do we envelope this technology to make it make sense to the common man? And that's where the modular concept came in, which is house our technology in modular sustainable structures, giving the advantage of speed in terms of building. We could roll out so many schools in 90 days from start to finish. Scale and access, making the kids talk the language they're used to, technology. And putting that together created this for us.
Now, given how much it takes to invest in this school, do you consider this project sustainable?
Absolutely. Very, very sustainable. In fact, it's the way to go. This is the way the first world countries have done it. You want to put a building. Remember, during COVID, China could put up centers in 24 hours, 10 floors. It's all because the structures were modular. They couldn't wait for brick and mortar. So basically, that ability to assemble, disassemble. And the World Cup in Qatar has a stadium that's been built with containers, 521 containers. After the World Cup in November, that whole space is going to be dismantled and, put elsewhere. So sustainability, speed, all of that come together to make this happen. Give dilapidated schools all over the place, knock them down, build this up with tech already pre-built into it, and deliver the 21st century learning experience.
So what is the current thinking? Where is the new school going to come from now?
Hopefully, we trust that the next set of schools will be rolled out in the next few months across Lagos, and hoping that each district will have one, within the next 1 year. So this become the special schools, the flagship schools that each learning district in the city of Lagos would have. We're hoping to roll out over 100 of those across Africa in the next 1 year and begin to see how we can begin to transform the way Africa is learning and working.
So do you have states that are buying in?
Oh, yes. So we're talking to quite a number of states, and we're very close. It's a concept that's found favor up north, and that's very, very important for us, especially because there are disadvantages and there's a lot of catching up to do in certain parts of Nigeria. And this just allows us nationwide to compete globally, because it's not local anymore. Every child is competing at a global level. And we believe that what we're doing will make that happen for them all over the country.
So definitely you put a lot of time and energy into this. How long does it take to build one school?
Typically, we built this first one in about 12 months, but that was during COVID. Typically, we will deliver start to finish in exactly 120 days. The next batch, that's in exactly 4 months.
Sounds interesting. And there looks to be no stopping for you.
Absolutely no stopping. We're rolling out, the tanks are rolling out, and we're looking forward to seeing the next generation of our kids in Africa being globally competitive, being ready to be able to just roll out what they have inside them, just bring the best that they have. And that, for them, our kids they're digital natives. So you're basically making them learn in what they're already used to. We're also working very hard with partners to see how we can begin to do a lot more of that locally, once we can get those assembly lines done locally, we're going to see a massive drop in cost. But as of today, this is much cheaper than brick and mortar. You can take that to the bank.
Very interesting. Mr. Agbala Olayomi, thank you for coming on and all the best.
Thank you very much for having me.
In the northwest of Ethiopia's Afar region, landmines left over from the 19-month Tigray conflict are making herders struggle with a record-breaking drought, even deadlier. Landmines have killed children and livestock and made people afraid to collect water despite the drought. Henry Wilkins reports from Shifra, Ethiopia.
The battles between Ethiopian government-aligned troops and Tigrayan forces may have stopped, but herders in western Afar region are left fighting for survival. The record drought in the Horn of Africa that's killed millions of livestock has been made worse by landmines left by combatants. Herder Hussein Arebti Hassen's 4-year-old daughter was injured by a landmine, and they're also killing his animals.
Landmines are everywhere around here, and many animals have died because they've stepped on them. Goats stand on them and they explode.
Landmines and other explosives are so common here that the locals use the wood from the crates as building materials. 9-year-old Ali Amar says his 10-year-old friend was killed by a landmine while they were herding goats together.
I left here with my friend to go and tend to the goats. We were just there to take care of the goats, but my friend died. He was playing, throwing stones at the landmine. Then he picked it up and threw it at the ground.
Ali was also injured. His father says landmines make them all afraid to collect water, despite the drought.
There is a serious drought here. It is difficult both for the people and the animals. We don't know what we'll do. I must spend a lot of money to buy food for both our family and our animals. We need the landmines removed from the area where we used to live.
After speaking with locals, VOA was unable to establish which side in the conflict was responsible for laying the mines. Bekele Gonfa runs a non-profit in Addis Ababa to support landmine victims. He says people in mined areas of Ethiopia like Chifra need help.
Number one is the medical treatment, and then they've been provided with psychosocial support, which includes peer counseling. Particularly, that's what our organization is basically engaged in and operating in. The public and the community has to be given mine risk education in order to really keep themselves away from the mines.
But with the ongoing drought, people in Chifra have little choice in risking landmines to find food for their animals and collect water for their survival. Henry Wilkins for VOA News, Chifra, Ethiopia.
Over to Senegal, in West Africa, where a clinic in Dakar is offering a substitution maintenance therapy to drug addicts. That's in a bid to curb the spread of HIV. With the management of opioid dependence, citizens who replace illicit drugs with medically prescribed ones can now get the orientation and health care they need.
To reduce the spread of HIV, a drop-in clinic in Dakar offers free opioid substitution to people who inject drugs. Sepiad is one of the first harm reduction centers in Senegal. It has 250 people enrolled in its opioid substitution therapy program. Founded in 2014, the center has cared for more than 1,000 people. Aside from syringe exchange, opioid substitution, and psychosocial support, Sepiad offers health care. The aim is to reduce the spread of HIV among people who inject drugs.
I am here to take my treatment, and I am a tailor.
More than 3/4 of patients are men, but Sepiad has been working hard to enroll more women who are more likely to live with HIV. Mariama Bathiam is a former drug user living on the streets for years. She's now a peer educator at Sepiad. She's worried about rising drug consumption among young people and dwindling funds.
I go out into the community and visit my peers to raise awareness about getting off drugs and reducing health risks. So I refer them to Sepiad, and they can, like me, stop drugs.
The center encourages patients to learn a trade. Drug use is a criminal offense in Senegal, but Sepiad has the government support in various international organizations like UNAIDS and the Global Fund.
Ultimately, ending AIDS would cost much less money than not ending AIDS. Importantly, the actions needed to end AIDS are also key for overcoming other pandemics.
According to a report by UNAIDS, globally, more than 1.5 million people became infected with HIV last year. The number of people on HIV treatment grew more slowly in 2021 than in over a decade. The gap in HIV treatment coverage between children and adults is increasing rather than narrowing.
It's time now for a short break, and as we do, we remind you to visit our website, channelstv.com, for news and programming around the clock. You can also find us at youtube.com/channelsweb. Still to come, visiting his homeland for the first time since resettlement to the U.S., former refugee and LA Lakers power forward Wenyan Gabriel meets with people displaced due to floods and conflicts in South Sudan.
Welcome back to Africa 54. I'm Linor Mudu in Washington. Members of Tanzania's ruling party are among politicians from 6 African countries who recently attended the first session of a Chinese Communist Party training school. The school was built to strengthen Chinese outreach to African countries, but critics say the training undermines efforts to advance democracy in Africa by promoting Beijing's model of one-party rule. Charles Kombe reports from Kibaha, Tanzania.
Fred Msai is one of several Party of the Revolution members who attended a seminar here for the politicians from 6 African countries and China. The Mwalimu Julius Nyerere Leadership School, opened in February, is located in Kibaha near Dar es Salaam and was built with $40 million from the Communist Party of China.
The services that are provided here are of high quality and beyond any doubt. That means this school has all the facilities and services that will allow any leader to participate in training for the betterment of our country.
The leadership school was co-funded by the ruling parties of Tanzania, South Africa, Mozambique, Angola, Namibia, and Zimbabwe. School officials say the classes provide a platform for China to enhance exchanges and build party-to-party diplomacy.
The relationship between China and our school is in funding, such as buildings, and to run this school. But there is another one that I see. During the first training, they taught our students what is happening in China. They were taught what our colleague, China, did to bring about changes.
China has been hosting training classes and exchanges in Africa for decades, as far back as the 1950s. But over the past decade, they have grown both in number and profile. Analyst Goodluck Ngingo says the new school advances the Chinese Communist Party's model for ruling a country and also promotes the party's ideological allies.
Tanzania is among the countries where liberation parties with the socialist wing ideology continue to remain in power. This basically helps China and other countries that still believe in the one-party system. So you see how China ensures that the leaders who come continue to believe in socialist politics.
Ngingo says the training will present problems for activists who want to see their countries become or remain more democratic.
In politics, if there is no solid constitution that can ensure the majority rule, it will give the opportunity for things to be done by a few. A single-party system is a possibility, and this is because we have seen many African countries where the president comes to power and removes other political parties, and the ruling party remains.
Msai says he sees a bright future for Tanzanian politics due to the presence of the leadership school. But others believe the Chinese teachings will blunt the growth of democracy and only promote friction. Charles Kombe for VOA News in Kibaha, Tanzania.
Los Angeles Lakers power forward and former refugee Wenyan Gabriel has visited his homeland, South Sudan, for the first time since being resettled to the U.S. at a young age. During his visit with UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency, Gabriel met with family and individuals displaced due to floods and conflict in the region.
Wenyan Gabriel was born in Sudan's capital, Khartoum, in 1997 after his parents fled the civil war in the south. He's back home for the first time since leaving as a little child.
For me to come here, it was really eye-opening for me to see how people are really living. I mean, I went to Juba, I got to see how people are living in Juba. I got to visit my family over there, my mom's side, my dad's side, and I got to see how they're living. And, you know, they're struggling without the running water, electricity, different things like that. And then I come over to the camp and I see how they're living at the camp, and it's even harsher, you know, to see how they're living. And it was really eye-opening, and the way they welcomed me and how happy they were to see me, it really touched me.
As we know, Wenyan began playing basketball at a young age and currently plays for the LA Lakers, one of the most successful teams in the history of the NBA. Now 25 years old, Wenyan is keen to support the work of UNHCR and harness the power of sports to help those forced to flee build a better future.
These are people, are really ambitious people that if you give them opportunity, they can really excel. There's people like myself in different countries in Europe, Australia, America, where we've gotten opportunities and we've proven what we could do. And there's people over here that really want this. So I had the young kids that came over and they spoke to me very vocally on what they needed to do and how they feel about sports and vocational schools. And maybe not everyone here is going to be a doctor and engineer, but if you give them different hands-on skills, these kids can learn on how to build the country, and these tools are really important.
Despite high needs, South Sudan's refugee crisis is the largest in Africa and is also one of UNHCR's most underfunded crises. Millions are also internally displaced due to conflict and insecurity, as well as flooding and drought driven by climate change.
It's my job here to come to call for more help, to bring attention over here. And I understand that I can't do everything by myself, but I can at least bring attention to what's going on over here. For a crisis this large, the largest crisis to be this underfunded, I mean, it's an injustice.
Wenyan Gabriel started supporting UNHCR in 2020 by amplifying key campaigns and marking South Sudan's Independence Day as a moment to gather attention for the humanitarian situation in the country.
In Ivory Coast, an artisanal chocolatier blends good flavor and good intentions in his work. Axel Emmanuel Gbaou trains women to get good taste and good profits from the cocoa beans they process, as Yassine Siyo observes in this report narrated by Carol Gunsberg.
The chocolatier Ivorian's handcrafted bars are prized, especially after last March, when the brand was judged best chocolate in the world at the Paris International Agricultural Show. Maybe that's not surprising. Ivory Coast is the world's top producer of cocoa beans, the key ingredient. Each bar is hand-wrapped in paper mimicking African fabric design.
Bonjour, bonjour, bonjour les mamans.
Chocolatier Axel Emmanuel Gbaou starts with organic or fair trade cocoa beans. He traveled one recent day from his base in coastal Abidjan to the south central Ivory Coast town of Tumodi to buy a few kilos.
It is pure cocoa, which smells very good and can make good quality chocolate. Hand processing increases the value of these beans, and that can add value to the women's daily lives.
The women select, shell, and roast the cocoa beans, handling more than half of the transformation from cocoa to chocolate. By doing all this work themselves, they can sometimes quadruple the value of the raw bean. Most of Ivory Coast cocoa is exported in raw form.
Since we started this job, things have improved. We work daily. It gives us income that helps us take care of our children, our husbands.
Valentine Yao is a manager with Co-op Bell Cooperative. Bao, who briefly worked in banking before starting his chocolate business in 2015, joined forces with the cooperative and a network of farmers striving for better pay. He estimates he has trained 2,000 people, mostly women, in the early stages of chocolate production. He volunteers his time.
60% of the energy of a classic chocolate factory goes into the stage of roasting, shelling, and I don't have the capacity at home. I have outsourced with these women, so I waste less energy. These women earn something, and everyone is happy. Everyone wins.
Bao completes the chocolate making in his Abidjan kitchen. He adds flavorings such as cashew, lemongrass, and ginger. A single bar sells for roughly $5 in Europe and the United States, the Chocolatier Ivoirien's biggest markets. It's also sold domestically. Now, Bao aims to increase production and to make chocolate more affordable, including for the West Africans who grow it. Most of them are poor.
My next step is to scale up with an industrial unit that will manufacture chocolate. I want an industrial unit which will put chocolate in the local market and in the sub-region and for the whole world.
Bao hopes to triple his production and broaden distribution. He wants to sweeten the lives of more Ivorians and others. For Yassine Siao in Abidjan, Ivory Coast, Carol Gunsberg, VOA News.
And that's our show for today. You can find all the continent's top news and world news online at voaafrica.com. Check it out. I'm Linor Mudu in Washington. Channels Television has our last word from Lagos.
We look forward to bringing you another show next week. ChannelsTV.com is your source for news and other programming. I am Chamberlain Osar. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.